What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel today. Today, we're going to install coil spacers in this thing. Now, when you get into the subject, it's kind of loaded because this truck's got a lift kit already. It's got a 4-inch kit on it. And when you start talking about stacking leveling kits on lifts, you get a lot of people that are against it, and you got a lot of people that are okay with it. I'm okay with it because this truck has a 6-inch Tough Country long arm kit that I have actually added spacers to make an 8-inch to clear the 14 wides on 37s with, as you can see, a lot of really disgusting trimming. And then this truck here, Don's truck, has got a 4-inch kit that, if you guys have watched, we've converted to, the Tough Country long arms. We added these are 22 by 12s on 37 13.5 tires. And right here, it's way too close. And if you can imagine, the rub is horrible. It hits in here so high. So it's not enough. Seeing as how this kit is a coil kit, we can add a coil spacer. And in my eyes, we're gonna be just fine. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's get going. First thing you're gonna see us do, or me, is I'm going to take the hat off. I call it the hat. The shock's already been unbolted from the top up here. This shock hat is coming off because we are installing a flat plate. And I'll explain that later. So once we do that, we're going to take the shock out completely. We're going to capture the spring, and we're going to lift the truck off of the spring without even taking a tire off. So now that we have the tower out, the shock out, the sway bar is disconnected here. The only thing left to do is put the tool on the compressor to retain the spring, and then we're going to get that clamped down a little bit, and then we're going to jack the truck up off the spring, easy as can be. So these compressors are actually strut compressors. We rented them from our local parts store. If your parts store has rentals, that's great. If you need to buy some, look for something like this. Be careful though, because a lot of the strut compressors, and I actually brought some home, I need to show you guys, they have U-bolts. Well, let me show you. The ones I brought home that I was going to use have U-bolts on them, like this, that capture the spring. Well, the U-bolts are too small. These are for car springs. These truck springs have bigger diameter springs in them, so they won't work. So this is what we're using. This is what we went and we used. They also have an internal style spring compressor, which obviously I'm not using, but again, you guys can. It's an option. Look for it. It's a pretty good unit. So now all we need to do is lift the truck off the spring and hope nothing comes apart on us. So this is the point where you would put your shock tower back on, or whatever you want to call that thing, that hat, back on here with your shock. But this is where things get kind of tricky on this truck. If it wasn't tricky enough with the whole putting the spacer thing in a sketchy fashion. So to be clear with you guys, we actually tried to do this the other night. I actually tried to do this about 3 times already. Every time we've tried to work on this truck, it's been nothing but a dilemma. Because whoever put the lift on last, or whoever had it last, did some questionable things. So when I did this one, when I put the coil spacers in my truck, the shocks were long enough that they actually had enough travel to where I could put them in and it still set good. It had rebound and it had compression. Now on this one, on Dawn's, we tried this the other night. We actually tried it with a 1-inch spacer. And come to find out, on that truck, as it sat before with just 4-inch on it, he only had 1.5 inches of up travel. So when we started jacking it up to get the spring, or to see what we had, the shock was actually topped out and lifting the tire before we could measure, you know, the inch. So basically what was going to happen there, if we took the time and did it, he would only have 1/2 inch of up travel, which means he would be topping out that shock all the time, because going down the road, you know, these things move around up and down and all sorts of things. And then after doing a little more measuring, we figured out that 1 inch wasn't going to give us what we wanted for clearance, which I think we're doing better now. I'm kind of excited to get this thing back together and see what we need to do for trimming now. But we then made the decision to go 2-inch. Well, obviously if the shock doesn't have enough travel extending at 1 inch, it's definitely not going to have enough travel going 2 inches. So what we did instead, because he does want to run the same shocks that we do on this guy with the what are they saying? Foxes. Yeah. He wants to run those Foxes, but it's hard to do that when what you have really isn't bad. So here's the thing we're doing. Rather than buying new shocks right now, we are actually going to be trading out the top hat that I keep calling a top hat, the hat for the shock. We're going to be trading it out for a Fleece low profile shock mount. Now what this is going to do with all the measurements, and this is going to be fine because we gained 2 inches of coil, right? Basically we added 2 inches. Well, that hat is about 4 inches, close to 5 inches from the shock to the bolt platform. We would gain 3 inches of extension, which means that he would have to try really hard to top out these shocks, and I don't think he'd do it anyways. And also the fear I had was, well, now what about bottoming out the shock? Well, we're not gonna have that issue either, because to be completely honest with you guys, we cheated and we made a trial run of this last night, because why not? We're out here till 10 o'clock trying to die. And this is actually what you end up with. So that low profile shock mount's on there, bolts up just fine. We need to cut the boot off. The top of the shock body's right here. You know, obviously you have all that room. So long story short, that shock is probably going to be pretty happy right now. But I do know, you know, later down the road things change, so we're not getting rid of any parts. We're keeping the hats, because when he does decide to make the jump and do those Foxes or whatever may come out in the meantime, if we need to put that hat back on, we can. I had to put you guys down for a second. This was a bear to get this and the shock on, but this is basically how it goes on. It just takes place the hat, and the hole in the middle holds the shock bushing, the shock. You just tighten this down, tighten that shock back down. Then I'll need to go through, put our sway bars back on. And I think that's it. I think everything should be pretty snugged up at that point. I need to get these boots off of here now because they look kind of goofy, but that's that, you know. This coil spacer, shock tower delete, or whatever you want to call it, low profile shock mount, whatever. Well guys, all in all, we're done. We got it back together, and I wanted to show you how big of a difference this 2-inch kit makes, or this level makes when you're working about clearance. So before, I mean, it is hitting right now. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It still hits. This is full lock, but it's not near as bad because before it would hit up here, and it was horrible. You couldn't turn it all. And the worst part was back here, it was actually against the cab. So we learned something through this whole thing. We thought a 4-inch kit, he had 37s on a 10 wide before. That's what these are in here. And those rubbed a little bit, not bad. And we thought, yeah, you know, going to a 12 wide, that won't be so bad. Just keep it on 37 and it won't be bad. But turns out, hey, a 37 on a 12 wide with a 4-inch, unless you want to trim a lot, it's kind of iffy. So we're gonna take this thing for a cruise, or I am. Don doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to, because we put a lot of time into this thing, and hopefully it runs out right. I'm glad it doesn't rub near as bad as it did before. There might still be a little bit of trimming, but we'll see. If it's only a full lock, I wouldn't be too worried about that. You know, going into parking spots, whatever, that's fine. The real iffy part is when you get a catch like this backing out. So we will see what happens there. But guys, I want to thank you for keeping along with me. There's some clutch parts in there that we're going to deal with soon. Transmission is on its way back. Oh man. And I cannot, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to show you guys that transmission. So stay tuned. I told myself I'd never do this because I don't like it. But hey, subscribe, whatever, keep up. Subscribe, hit the bell, why not? All right, so I'm gonna let you guys go. Me and my little helper here, we're going to see what happens. See y'all next one, guys. Thank you.